effective is your website currently? I know some of the people in this room we already work with, so I know exactly sort of what they look at for their website. But I suppose if I ask the room, you know, when you talk to your web design agency on a monthly or quarterly basis, what are you looking at? Is it you know, website visitors? Is that a key thing? Do you look at bounce rates, session duration, that sort of thing? See a few nods. Since I've joined the company, I've found in a lot of cases I go and talk to clients and they show me kind of the monthly reports that they're looking at and ask me about metrics. They typically will ask me, you know, about session durations, number of page views, that sort of thing. Whilst these are important, they're not the be-all and end-all, and there's a lot of different factors. And by the time I finish with the conversation, I normally get to the point where they're actually saying, I don't care how many people are on my site as much as I care about how many people are booking services and how many people are inquiring. If you can get me lots more visitors but no more inquiries, that's no good to me. What I want is inquiries that I can turn into money. Okay? So we start from there, and I don't know if this sounds familiar to you all, but what we'll talk through now is the process then of taking that and moving forward to, okay, how do we make the website generate more sales for us, okay? So the first thing that needs to be done is you need to decide as a business what is important to you. Are you trying to get lots of people to sign up to newsletters so that you can market to them? Are you trying to increase your brand awareness? Are you trying to specifically sell an offer? Once you've done that, you can talk to your web design agency about making the website optimized for that goal. And there's a couple of key concepts that we're going to use through the rest of the workshop. So this introductory bit, just bear with me, is explaining a couple of concepts, right? And then we'll get down to the examples and discussion. So, conversions, right? A conversion is an action that someone takes on your website that you want them to take. It's whatever you want. A conversion can be clicking on a particular button, it could be making an inquiry, it could be having a certain number of page views, whatever it is you define, that's a conversion. You may also hear it referred to as a goal. It's essentially the same thing. But there are two types of conversions, and a lot of people miss out on this. Macro conversions and micro conversions, right? Macro conversions are the end goals that you want people to, you know, to fulfill when they're on the website. So this is the stuff like inquiring about a car, booking a test drive, booking a service, right? But macro conversions will occur, you know, at a rate that's lower than something called micro conversions. These are the actions that, whilst they don't make money for us, they actually, we think, lead up to a macro conversion. So, for example, you might find that a lot of users who book a test drive, before they do that, they view an offers page, or they view a certain number of pages, depending on how your website's laid out. So where we find clients often lacking is that they might be measuring you know, the number of test drives that somebody books. They're not necessarily measuring the micro conversions, which are the actions that people take that typically lead up to that test drive. So when you measure micro conversions, all of a sudden you've got a lot more data, which helps with your optimization. More data means we can see, you know, we can make decisions more quickly to optimize to the end goal. Okay. So is everyone clear on those two concepts that are right? Micro and macro conversions. So, next question then, how do we actually measure these? I imagine a lot of people in the room are aware of Google Analytics. Some of you probably log in and look at that yourself, others will delegate that to your web agency. The one thing I will say is I'm extremely confident that you're not using Google Analytics to its full potential. Very few people are. This is one of the big areas when we onboard a client is explaining to them the sorts of things that you can look at in Google Analytics. You can get as granular as looking at, you know, how is a user flowing through the website, which pages are leading to which conversions, which pages are creating micro conversions. And with all of that data, you can put things together and make decisions. So all of this is possible in Google Analytics. For those who aren't aware, Google Analytics is well, the basic version is free of charge. You need your web design company or your in-house team to put some code on each page of your website. You then get to log in and you can see all the stats. When you log in, you'll see things like the number of sessions. You can break that down by how did the user get to the website, what location are they in, and you can see what is generating returns for you. So step one, I always say when you're getting a new website, is decide what your business goals are, come up with some micro conversions that you think are likely to lead to those business goals, and get your web design agency to set them up in Google Analytics, because that, without that being done, you can't actually see the data, and applying things retrospectively is normally, if not impossible, very problematic. Okay, so you need to get those set up to view things going forward. Any questions on Google Analytics? No? Okay. A problem that I get asked internally, as a web design agency, we're always looking for best practices, and because we operate in the automotive industry, there are a lot of lessons learned that we can actually apply to our clients that we've learned from other areas of the automotive sector. With goals, I often get asked, isn't there just a set number of goals that we can tell the client, these are things you need to measure up front and set them up universally for people as a basic thing? And my opinion is no. There's two reasons for this. One is that internally you're all quite different. You all have different marketing resource, you all have different priorities. Where one client may want a load of leads that are from people who are very speculative, that may not suit other people. Where one person wants online service booking, that may not suit other people. The other thing is that different types of conversions suit different brands. Some of you no doubt will be representing franchises who are very sensitive about deep discounting, offering vouchers, that type of thing. Whereas for other brands, that can work really, really well. I'll show you a couple of examples as we move on. But really, the point that I'm trying to explain to you all is you personally need to have your own unique set of goals that you discuss with your web team, and don't accept them just saying this is exactly what you need to measure it. Issues. Okay. One more concept that we're going to need. Have to purchase. A lot of marketers in the room will be familiar with this already. I'll just introduce the concept. When we think about people buying a car, we look at it like a path, right? They start off in the awareness stage, which is where they need to actually become aware of your brand. If you're representing a franchise that is relatively new or unknown, you'll want to focus on this area. People then, from becoming aware of the brand, they'll move into consideration and intent stages. That is the stages where they are comparing, let's say, a Suzuki Vitara to another brand of car, right? They'll then move on to intent, where they know which car they want, and they're looking at prices and deals to see where they're going to buy it. And obviously the decision is self-explanatory. I'll go through how we as marketers use this in our web design and how you can think about optimizing for each of these stages. But if you just remember, awareness, consideration, intent, and decision. Okay. So just one further thought before we move on. I'd like everyone just to kind of think about in terms of how their websites are set up. Are you more geared towards one part of that path to purchase than another part? For example, people in the awareness stage I mentioned, they're likely to be wanting information on who your brand is, what cars do you have, what are the benefits, features, etc. Somebody in the intent stage is going to want to know what offers are available, how do I action those offers. And most of the time, when I look at a website that say we've been asked to look at, they fall into one of those two categories. There's not a lot of websites that I've seen where they're working very well to move people from awareness into intent, or optimizing areas of the website specifically for these types of visitors. And as a result, they're either helping people to become aware of a sign-on car, or they are hoovering up people who are searching for Ford Fiesta by giving them offers, but not combining the two potentially, if you follow. Okay, we'll just take a quick detour now into traffic sources and advertising, and then we'll go through the examples. I mentioned about Google Analytics, the fact that you probably aren't using everything that you could be. I'm sure a lot of you are using a lot of functionality, and you may even be using this one. When you look at Google Analytics at your sources of traffic, you can categorize them by types. So direct traffic is people who come to your website either by typing in your URL directly or through a bookmark. Organic is people who come through Google or Bing when it's not paid search, right? Paid search, I'll elaborate on, is again people come from Google, Bing, etc., where it's paid for. I think the rest is self-explanatory. Referrals is a big one in auto, especially if you have manufacturer sites or auto trader. The key thing to understand in your reports that you're getting is that each one of these behaves differently, and you can get reports on anything from sessions, bounce rates, goal completions, etc., split out by channel. And it's very important to look at this because you may find, for example, that 1 month you're doing great, your traffic's up, but actually when you drill down, there's something wrong with your SEO, you're not getting organic, but something good's happening on referral, or you're paying a lot more for auto trader or what have you, some other website. So when you drill down, you can really kind of look at how each one is performing, and we'll discuss why that's important now. So, why we like to look at traffic sources is because we think that they give us a very good indication of why somebody is on the website. How they got to the website gives us a clue as to what part in that path to purchase they're at and what information they need. So, if we just use a couple of examples here, right? Search advertising, some people in the room I'm sure are doing this already, but just for the benefit of those who aren't. Search advertising is where you pay to appear in the search results, basically. Google and Bing are the most common platforms that we use for this. It's becoming increasingly important, as a lot of you will be aware. The top 4 in a commercial search is now paid, so on a mobile in particular it's difficult to get clicks without being paid. So that is search advertising. The other common form that I'd say pretty much do a standard for our clients is display advertising. We use a type of display advertising called programmatic, which some of you might have heard of. I'm sure others are. It's a way of getting a lot of inventory across the web. You can layer in different interests, income bands, things like that. The point about display advertising is you're showing a banner on a website to somebody based on who they are, not what they've searched for. So often, the strategy here is brand awareness or catching somebody who might be interested in cars, but not necessarily your cars yet. So if we just think about those 2 examples, I'm going to go through was that clear to everyone, by the way? Search advertising and display, is that all right? Yeah. This is just an example of a digital marketing strategy that we might do. These are bespoke per client, please don't take this as gospel, right? So we'll have a brand awareness piece right at the start. What we typically want to do here is catch people who are, through our own research, through research, probably likely to be our target audience, right? So they might be of a certain age, have certain interests, etc. And we typically would target them with display advertising across social media and the internet generally through programmatic by showing them banners, right? So they'll see the banners and sometimes they'll click through the banners. The point is we're casting the net really wide though. So we have to look at this as a brand awareness piece because you can't say that somebody who falls into this bucket is ready to buy a car now. That's very hard to do. So when you are looking at your Google Analytics reports, if you're running something like social media display advertising for brand awareness, you're not likely to get them to book a test drive. I mean, you can offer it, but what you probably want to optimize to is engagement metrics. These are things like getting them to spend a long time on the website, maybe getting them to sign up for a newsletter if you have one. I'd get them to allow you to market to them. Brochure downloads is another one, if you can get them to that stage. But really, you're trying to move them along. And the temptation sometimes is to just take the page and say, big button, book a test drive, right? Because that's what I want you to do. But if you do this kind of advertising or trying to increase the size of your pie, I suppose, through brand awareness campaigns, getting someone to that stage is going to be really hard. The smarter way to do it, we think, is to optimize to something softer, and then as part of the strategy, we'll move them along, and I'll show you how we do that. Apologies for the issue for clicker. So next stage we're looking at consideration, right? So now somebody knows about your brand, you know, like dealership maybe, but they're still not sure which car they want. Again, are they likely to book a test drive at this stage? They might, but because they're not sure which car they want, what you probably need to do is make sure that they're looking at key information that you've identified, which are the unique selling points of the car. You know, that could involve price, but it's probably a lot to do with features and benefits. So when we're optimizing the website for people at this stage, we will be looking at, again, things like brochure downloads most likely, or viewing particular pages that might have model comparisons, that type of thing. And the reason I've put search advertising here is that in this particular example I've done, this might be a client who is doing search advertising for keywords like best family hatchback, you know, this sort of thing, most economical family car, and you'll bid to show your car as part of the consideration, but you're not at this stage catching people who are looking for best Suzuki Vitara deal in wherever, right? So at this stage we need one type of lead generation optimization. So what that means in practice is, tell your web agency, I'm getting people from this part of, you know, people who are at this stage of the path to purchase, I want them to take this action. I want them to book a test drive, but I need to give them something else. I need to give them something that's going to move them along. They're not ready in a lot of cases to book a test drive, and I don't want to just lose them, because these are people who are, I don't know, like walking into your showroom, not quite sure yet. But the next stage, where we're at intent, these typically, this is often the first thing that we target with people who come on for advertising, first parts of their spend. We might do, let's say, for example, a search advertising campaign where we are targeting people who are searching for Ford Fiesta offers. I used the example before. Right? Somebody searching for that term probably knows they want to buy a Ford Fiesta, I would say. That's probably a reasonable assumption. If they're looking for offers and pricing. And because of what they've searched for, we want to be showing them the level of information that lets them make a decision. Actually, yes, I will inquire with this garage. I'll show some examples where it doesn't always help to show everything, but what we clearly want to focus on here is a harder lead generation. At this stage, somebody's in your showroom, looking around your cars, looking at the prices, you want to go and talk to them. So you need to give them a reason then to say, okay, why should I inquire? It's probably an inquiry. That's our tactic, to be honest. It's getting them at this stage to look at what your offering is, but start talking to you. That's the key thing. Them being on your website doesn't help you if you're not talking to them. You can't sell the car unless there's some sort of dialogue there. So this is the real crucial stage. And then the final stage being the decision. But what's also very important to realise is that people move between these stages. And so we use things like retargeting. I've spoken to a few people today who are running these types of things. We use campaigns to target people who have been on our website and undertaken certain actions to move them along. We'll go over that once more at the end, but it's a very important point. You can't just take somebody from this stage, get them to perform something and leave it, because something may or may not happen. There are things that you can do normally to affect the movement along this path to purchase. A lot of information on that slide. Is that okay for everyone? Okay. So, just a final one on that then, final thought. Traffic searches for display ads and social media based on demographics, likely to include more people who are not yet aware of your brand or are at the very early stages of buying. Search advertising campaigns for words like best Fiesta offers in London, likely to be people who are at the stage where they need to get to the point of buying. So let's have a look at some examples now of things that we've done. So this particular client, we built some pages for them, which you can't see the whole of the page here, which have a lot of content to do with the vehicle types. We did that for a couple of reasons. One is that we wanted to increase engagement on site for people who are coming early in the buying path to purchase, right? So people who are not sure about the vehicle. The second one is an SEO reason. As you're all probably aware, good unique content doesn't hurt SEO, normally helps, unless you've got other issues with the website. So in doing that, page is very successful. We wanted to run some paid search campaigns which were targeting model names. So, for example, people with broad searches around Toyota Yaris. So not someone who specifically Toyota Yaris offers or Toyota Yaris special offers, new Toyota Yaris offers, etc. It's people searching for broader terms about the Yaris. And for that reason, we didn't want to specifically land them on an offers page where we showed them everything. In fact, we have found, I don't know if a lot of you do this on your own site, but we found in certain cases where we have clients who have pages that show all the offers without a strong call to action, you can actually end up giving all the information away and losing the customer because you give them the information, they either want the offer or they don't. And what you haven't done is started talking to them. So this again is a repeat problem that we have. So we had two options here. One is to move somebody along, to buy something. We could have just said, have a look at our offers, right? Which we've hidden actually up here because the client still wanted some visibility for that. So we're testing having that here, but it's not very prevalent. But for me, when I go on this page, I can see that the client has put on a headline offer, which they can input themselves dynamically. And me as a user, doesn't matter what stage of the path to purchase. Let's say I'm just interested in potentially buying the Yaris, but I'm comparing models. I've got the page with all the data on here, but the first thing I see is this. So I know, hang on, if I like this page, I probably want to get a quote. What does get a quote mean? I suppose it means let's talk about what specifications you want, and let's give you a bespoke price for you. But the point is, it means talk. Let's talk, because here is our headline offer. Are you interested? Get in touch with us. It's giving them an instruction on something to do. With this particular page, we had an increase in conversion rate of 55% before we introduced that. So without this, we'll get a particular rate that increased 55% once we introduced it. Any questions on this page or the methodology? Makes sense? Okay. So just to recap, key thing. New cars, some people visiting this page are ready to buy, others are just wanting information because of the campaigns, but we've put this here to move them along to that next stage. Okay, so this example here is a used car example. Had some conversion issues. This is a very new thing that we're testing, so it's not exactly the finished article yet. I just thought it was an interesting one to show you the way that we think, I suppose, as an agency. So what we've actually done is all of these previously were white, these calls to action. And the wording was such that it wasn't instructional. So where we've now got what's your car worth, that previously was part exchange. I see this on so many sites, it's like a templated thing often. You see part exchange. What you're not telling me to do something, and you're not highlighting it as a key thing that I need to do in order to get this car. But clearly, if I want to buy that car, I probably do need to think about what my car is worth. So what we're doing there is just testing the colours out on that and testing the wording, but that's kind of how we thought about it. The other thing we've done, and this is a really simple change that may have a big effect, is just highlight the inquiry. This said make an inquiry, we changed it to inquire now, changed that to blue. That doubled the conversion rate on that particular button. With a couple of changes on mobile as well. But you can see that small changes can have a large impact, and actually if you, at the end of this Google conversion rate examples, you will find across many sectors people who have made very small changes and actually doubled their inquiry rate or more. Okay. So the next one is a mobile example, and this is a tricky area. Just to point out, by the way, there is white at the top because I've debadged the website, so that's why it looks a bit odd. Used cars on mobile across the board, we find a challenge. When I say we find it a challenge, we don't think it's currently being done as well as it can be, and that's something that we're looking to change. A lot of you have probably heard about mobile up design. With responsive websites now, so whereas in the past you would design a website for desktop and make it responsive so it adapts to different devices. Our way of thinking now, and really where the industry's gone, is that you design a website for a mobile that scales up to desktop. because it makes sense. More of your visitors are going to come to you from mobile, so why would you do it any other way, I guess? And as part of that, we have been revising a lot of our call to action buttons. So yeah, again, used car, I'm looking on my mobile at this used car. If I don't have a call to action, what will I do? I will remember it. I may go to the showroom. What if it's of interest but I have questions, or what if the price isn't quite right? I guess that our clients still want to talk to that person because they're in the market for a car, and there's probably some way of meeting them where they need to be it another car. The point is it's a potential customer. So too early to give you data on this one because it's very new. But what we're testing is buttons at the bottom here that are sticking very clear. The wording on this one, yes, we're testing what's next. That may not be exactly what we do on our website. In fact, it isn't exactly what we do on our website. But you can see it's very strong. It's saying, well, hang on, I like this car. What's next? I probably will click that actually because I'm interested to know what it shows me. And we're testing a range of different inquiry options. We'll also be including in here for dealers where it's possible things like reserve this car. I don't know if any of you do that. I know it can be a problematic area, but that's sort of very strong. People may not be aware that the car may be sold before they get it, so they need to reserve it. You need to tell them what action they need to take, and that's what we're really trying to do here. And as I say, this is not a finished article. It is still in very early development stages, but I just wanted to show you an example of mobile. We expect good things from that. Okay, any questions on any of those examples? Any comments? All good? Okay. We've talked a lot about calls to actions, buttons, making it clear what action somebody needs to take. What's also very important is actually getting them to the stage of taking that action. I think we have to remember that people can be very cautious of giving up their information, particularly for marketing purposes. If you're asking somebody to give you a phone number and an email address so that you'll provide them with some information, a lot of people will instantly say, actually, you know what, no, I don't want to talk to you firstly, and secondly, I don't want to be marketed to. So it is a big challenge. So what we need to get right is the emotive cues that your website are putting across. Are you persuading the person that it is a good idea to take that action? You've done the job in terms of getting these buttons on, making it clear what action you want them to take, they get that. But now you have to convince them to do it. And I've got an example here of one of our clients who I think does it very well. And I thought we could just talk through this. This is a dealer called Luscombe Motors. They do Suzuki Mitsubishi in Leeds. So there's a few things that I think Robin and his team do really, really well here that I just wanted to share. And as a precursor, I mentioned everybody's website is completely different, everybody's brand is completely different. What I'm talking about here is why I think they've done a really good job based on their brand and what I like. Okay, so a couple of things. Firstly, if you're going to get me to give your information, you're going to have to make me excited about something. There has to be something that I'm excited for you to give me that will make me do that. The second thing you have to do, I think, is to earn my trust. If I'm going to give you my contact details, I want to make sure you're not going to do something wrong with them. I want to make sure that I'm happy for you to have those details and to contact me and for me to do business with you. So if we just have a look here, just a couple of things I wanted to point to. Firstly, I feel that this is a very exciting page. I think they've done a good job of putting a lot of figures on there, the way it's presented. I'm interested in that car at that price. It's all there. It's appealing to my personal sense of wanting to know more. Other important points here. We talked about trust. So Suzuki is a well-known brand, pretty trusted, I would say. So again, he's put up here. Yes, it's Luscombe Motors, but he's highlighted the point. This is Suzuki. This is legitimate. This is a Suzuki dealership. So therefore, I will piggyback off their trust. Which makes sense. He's then highlighting, reinforcing trust with a few things. Top 100 cars, 2 reviews at the top, reviews down here. Also, if you look here, particular member, why buy from us? Okay, so these are all things that are giving me signals that he's actually quite willing to say, I'll tell you about myself because I am trustworthy. Listen to what everyone else says. It's herd mentality as well, isn't it? There is safety in social proof. If other people are doing it and other people like it, that makes it safer. So it's very smart, if you can, to try and include those on the page. Final thing that he does on this particular page, and again, right for his company, something food for thought for others. Once you're on the page for a particular amount of time, if you don't take an action, a voucher drops down. Again, that's pretty exciting, £5,000 off. And he has a lot of success, you know, in doing that. So that takes you through to a form, you provide details, etc. Further down this page, they have a lot of, this is not a web page on its own, this is actually, if you scroll down this page, they've got a lot of content that they have about the offers and the card. One thing that's very important about that is that Robin and his team write it in a consistent way. They have their voice, their identity, as you will all have as well. It's important when you're writing content for the site, even if you outsource it, to make sure that people doing it understand your personality, because when you've got text and people are reading this stuff, consistency, again, it builds trust. So if you've got one paragraph here written in one style and then another article written totally different, it can confuse people a little bit. It's also then got a video on here of him personally looking around the car, and again, the way I feel the way that he does that is consistent with this tone of voice that's used throughout the whole page. And again, trust factors. So a few good bits of practice there that I think, you know, is great. We're actually testing these buttons, so again, not a finished article, but I think the point I'm trying to get across is good calls to action, strong buttons, make it clear what the person needs to do, but then you still have to convince them to do it. Just putting it there isn't enough. Okay. So now we've got that in place. Testing. We should be finished in a few minutes. What you need to do now, you've got your things in place. The approach that we take is that large changes that are likely very wrong on your website currently, it does make sense to make those. We use tools like getting recorded user sessions on the website, and also heat maps of people using the website so you can see what people think. And that can help to give you a steer. But making assumptions about people who are visiting your website is very, very dangerous. I would say it's very hard to guess them right. So we make the big changes. Then once we're tinkering, we use A/B testing. A lot of you probably heard about A/B testing, split testing. You change a variable, you keep the other factors as constant as you can. The best way to do this is by showing a percentage of visitors one version of the page and an equal percentage of visitors another version of the page. Then the challenge is this, and this is why I love this from my maths background, is that, you know, if you have 10 and 10, right? 10 users on that page, 10 users on the other page, 2 people convert on that page, 1 does on that page. Does that tell you that the conversion rate is double? It does on paper, but actually what we need is statistical significance. So this is mathematical techniques that we use to look at when a result is statistically significant, which basically means the pool size is big enough and the difference in results is big enough that it says here is a clear winner. And that's basically what A/B testing is. Other methods that people use are before and after testing. I would say pros and cons, but if you're testing something in June and then testing the other change in August, you'll know yourself, you're going to have seasonality factors. Your manufacturers might be running different advertising campaigns, etc. So difficult to know exactly which is best. Web agencies with conversion rate optimization abilities will be able to help you with this. Okay, last couple of things. I mentioned at the start, once you've got your leads, you need to move them along the path to purchase. And this is where marketing comes in again. I say to everybody, please make sure when you are developing marketing lists that you're properly using opt-in, opt-outs, etc. So you're not, creating problems. Again, web design company should hopefully be able to advise you on that and you're using. But once you've got the leads, you need to have a strategy for moving them along. So as long as you're able to, somebody who might have downloaded a brochure and given their email address, you have permission to market to them. Keep them informed of offers, right? You know, they were interested in a car, so keep them, updated on new offers or discounts that you've got, etc. Whatever it might be, is probably useful and hopefully will help to move them along. With used email campaigns, you can also look at who's opened emails, who's clicked through, who's done what. So that can help you to focus on the segments of data that you want to market to. So, for example, you've got to pull. I only now want to remarket this message to the people who opened the first email or people who go through to the website to my email. If you don't have contact details that you can use, there's retargeting. Again, I spoke about it earlier. Two key ways that we do this. One is through programmatic display. So you have pixels on your site telling you when someone's done an action on your site. You can then show them display ads across the internet. RLSA, which is remarketing lists for search ads, a big area I'm just touching on. If anyone wants to talk about this afterwards, I'm around. If you're running paid advertising campaigns, generally you'll want to show somebody who's been on the website or performed an action a different message the second time to reinforce the USPs, etc. Using the same ad for someone who's brand new compared to someone who's already nearly converted probably is a little bit basic way of looking at it. And again, these can help then to move people along that path to purchase. Final thought. You've got your calls to action, you're convincing people to do them, you've got your techniques in place for moving people along the path to purchase. That will mean that you've then got data at some point to say, actually, when I look at the closed loop, that type of conversion results in car sales. Right? That might, for example, mean the first step normally is somebody downloads a brochure, then they book a test drive, then they buy a car. That's a very, very simplistic way of looking at it. But once you have the data, you can look at that, and then you can focus your efforts and your web design team's efforts on making sure that people complete those actions. Okay, so that's ultimately what we're selling more cars. So in summary, consider what your website conversions are. Speak to your web agency about what you want from the website. Make sure that they are tracking those and reporting on those. Look at the different types of people who come into your website and think about what actions you want them to take. Consider how you're going to use those leads and re-engage people to eventually sell a car. Do look up Google Analytics, lots of training online. Make sure that your web agency aren't just giving you the superficial figures, they're drilling down and giving you meaningful data. Okay, and then think about ways that you can improve conversion rates and ultimately test. Any questions? Ready for lunch. We're at stand 10 if you want to come and speak to us after. We've got some business cards there. There's our website detail. You can link to me or email me if you have any questions on any of that.